I've seen a lot in my 43 years on the bench. I'm Judge Simpson, and in that time, I've watched wealthy people try to buy their way out of consequences, powerful people try to intimidate their way past the law, and entitled people genuinely believe the rules simply don't apply to them. But I had never, not once in all my decades wearing this robe, had someone look me dead in the eye and tell me that he owned me. Not until December 18th, 2024, at 9:33 a.m. when billionaire William Ashford III walked into my Providence courtroom and said three words that would cost him everything he had. You think you've heard stories about arrogance before? Trust me, you haven't heard anything like this one. Hit that subscribe button right now because what I'm about to tell you is going to make you question everything you think you know about wealth, power, and what happens when a person truly believes they are above the law. This story went viral in 73 countries. The footage has been watched over 40 million times. Legal experts have picked apart every single word of it. And the question everyone keeps asking me is always the same. How does a man worth nearly $9 billion end up destroying his entire life over a parking ticket? Let me walk you through exactly how this started from the very beginning. It was a cold Wednesday morning in December. My clerk handed me a file that looked routine enough at first glance, case number PVD 2024-12-8847, a citation for parking in a disabled space without proper authorization. Fine, $500. I see cases like this every single week. Usually it's someone who was running late or someone who figured nobody would notice. They come in, they pay the fine, they apologize, and we all move on with our lives. Simple, forgettable, ordinary. But this case was different because the man in front of me wasn't appearing for his first violation. He wasn't appearing for his second or his third or even his fourth. He was appearing for his seventh. Let that sink in with me for a second. Seventh violation, same exact offense in just 2 years. The defendant was William Ashford III, age 58, resident of 2847 Ocean Avenue, Newport, Rhode Island. I knew that address. Everyone in this state knows that address. It's one of the great Newport mansions, valued according to public records at $67 million. And that wasn't even his only home. Manhattan, Miami, Aspen, a real estate portfolio estimated north of $200 million. His fortune came from Ashford Development Corporation, a real estate empire he'd spent 30 years building. Shopping centers, office towers, luxury residential developments up and down the eastern seaboard. According to Forbes magazine's most recent billionaire index, William Ashford III was worth $8.9 billion with a B, and this man, worth $8.9 billion, had racked up 7 citations in 2 years for parking in spaces reserved for people with disabilities. Let me read you the full record because the pattern matters more than any single incident. January 8th, 2023, Newport Town Center, $250, paid immediately, electronically, same day. April 19th, 2023, Providence Place Mall, $350, paid immediately. July 4th, 2023, Waterfire Arts Center during a public festival, $350, paid immediately. October 22nd, 2023, in Newport Harbor, $350, paid immediately. March 8th, 2024, Brown University, outside a lecture hall, $500 dies, paid immediately. August 12th, 2024, Rhode Island Hospital, in a spot marked for patient transport, $500, paid immediately. And now, November 30th, 2024, Thames Street, Newport, $500, total paid across 2 years, $2,300. Every single time, immediate payment, no contest, no appearance, no acknowledgement of wrongdoing, just pay and disappear like clockwork, like the fine was a subscription fee for a parking spot that never belonged to him. After the 7th citation, I issued a mandatory appearance order. I wanted to understand what was actually happening here. whether this was a man who simply didn't understand the law or a man who understood it perfectly and didn't care. That's how William Ashford III ended up standing in my courtroom on December 18th, 2024 at 9:30 in the morning. He arrived 3 minutes late. And the moment he walked through those doors, I knew this was not going to be an ordinary morning. First, there was the way he looked. A custom-tailored charcoal suit with a subtle pinstripe, the kind of fabric that only comes from the most expensive tailoring houses in the world. Brioni, maybe Tom Ford, easily $8,000 to $10,000. A crisp white shirt with French cuffs, gold cufflinks catching the courtroom light. An Hermes tie, probably $800 on its own, and on his left wrist a Patek Philippe Grandmaster chime, one of only 7 ever produced on Earth. The last one sold at auction went for $31 million. $31 million on his wrist to tell the time. His shoes were Berluti, easily $3,000, polished to a mirror shine. Everything about the man was engineered to communicate one single message: I am not like you. Second, he didn't walk in alone. Behind him came 4 attorneys in equally expensive suits, carrying leather briefcases and tablets, moving with the practiced confidence of people who bill $1,000 an hour and consider it a bargain. And behind them, a 5th person carrying a professional camera with a telephoto lens, a personal photographer there to document his appearance in traffic court. 5 people for a $500 parking ticket. Third, and this is the part that told me everything I needed to know before he ever opened his mouth: his demeanor. Most people who stand in front of me are nervous, respectful. They understand they're in trouble and they're hoping for a little mercy. William Ashford III looked bored, like this was a mildly irritating obligation standing between him and the rest of his important day. He walked to the defendant's table, didn't sit, kept his hands in his pockets, and stared down at his phone while I called the case. Case number PVD-2024-12-8847, I said. State of Rhode Island versus William Ashford III. Parking in a disabled space without proper authorization. November 30th, 2024. His lead attorney stepped forward first. Marcus Whitmore, appearing on behalf of Mr. Ashford, Your Honor. We'd like to request a continuance to review the citation and prepare our response. I looked at him. Mr. Whitmore, your client received this citation 3 weeks ago. He's known about this court date for 3 weeks. What exactly do you need time to review? Whitmore looked genuinely surprised, like he'd expected me to simply grant whatever he asked for. Your Honor, my client is an extremely busy man. He has business interests across multiple states. His time is very valuable. We're simply asking for a reasonable accommodation. Mr. Whitmore, everyone in this courtroom is busy. Everyone's time is valuable. Your client will be treated exactly like every other defendant who stands in front of me. No special accommodations. Please take your seat. I could see he wasn't used to hearing the word no. He glanced back at Ashford, got a small nod, and sat down without another word. I turned to Ashford directly. Mr. Ashford, this is your 7th violation for this exact offense in 2 years. Is that correct? He looked up from his phone with an expression of mild annoyance, like I was a telemarketer interrupting something important. Yes. One word. No, Your Honor. Nothing. I'd like to understand something, I said. Why do you keep parking in disabled spaces when you clearly don't have a disability placard or permit? He stared at me for a moment, like the answer should have been obvious. Because it's convenient. The disabled spots are always closest to the entrance of the building. I don't like walking from far parking spaces, so I park in the disabled spots. They're closer. The courtroom went completely, utterly silent. I'm sorry, I said. What did you just say? It's convenient, he repeated, unbothered, like he was explaining something to a child. The disabled spots are always close to the entrance. I don't like walking far, so I use them. I sat there for a moment, actually processing what I'd just heard. A billionaire telling a judge on the record that he broke federal and state disability laws 7 times because he didn't feel like walking an extra minute. Mr. Ashford, you understand those spaces are reserved for people who genuinely need them. People in wheelchairs, people with walkers, people who physically cannot cover long distances. He gave a one-shoulder shrug, casual, almost lazy. I understand that, but I pay the fine every time. Look at my record. Over $2,000 paid in fines across 2 years. That should more than cover the inconvenience to anyone. Should more than cover the inconvenience? I repeated it back to him slowly because I wanted him to hear how it sounded out loud. Mr. Ashford, the fine isn't a parking fee. It's not a transaction where you pay money for the right to use a disabled space. It's a penalty, a punishment designed to deter you from breaking the law again. That's when the cold, calculated smile appeared for the first time. Your Honor, with respect, a $500 fine doesn't deter me. I probably spend more than that on lunch. The fine is completely meaningless to me. So, yes, I pay it. I absorb it as a cost of doing business and I move on with my day. I probably spend more than that on lunch. I've been on the bench 43 years. My father sat on the bench before me. He taught me that everyone, the janitor and the CEO, stands on the exact same ground the moment they walk into a courtroom. William Ashford III did not believe that, not for 1 second of his life. Do you understand the purpose of a disabled parking spot? I asked. They exist for people with mobility issues, people in wheelchairs, people using walkers, people who physically cannot walk long distances. They need those spots close to the entrance. I understand the concept, Your Honor. Then why take their spots? If the spot's empty when I arrive, what's the harm? I'm using an empty space. Nobody's being denied anything. What if someone who actually needs that spot arrives after you've already taken it? Another shrug. Then they can park somewhere else. Then they can park somewhere else. A person with a disability, a person in a wheelchair forced to park farther away and struggle to get where they're going because William Ashford III didn't feel like walking an extra 30 seconds of his day. I felt my temper rising, and I've spent 43 years learning to control that, but this man was testing every ounce of my patience. Mr. Ashford, have you ever considered that your actions are selfish, disrespectful, that you're putting your minor convenience above other people's genuine physical needs? His bored expression hardened into something sharper, something with an edge to it. Your Honor, I don't appreciate the accusatory tone. I don't appreciate being lectured like a child. I pay my taxes, significant taxes. I employ 2,400 people across my various business interests. I donate millions of dollars to charitable causes every single year. I sit on the boards of 3 hospitals and 2 universities. I think I've earned the right to make my own decisions about where I park. Earned the right. I let that phrase hang there too. Mr. Ashford, wealth and success don't give you the right to break the law. Community contributions don't exempt you from basic human decency. He laughed, an actual out loud laugh, harsh and short. Your Honor, let me explain something about the real world. Everything gives me the right. Money, power, influence, connections. I have all of those things. And in the real world, not in this courtroom, but in the actual world where things get done, those things matter far more than parking regulations. The room gasped audibly. Even his own attorneys looked uncomfortable. One of them half rose out of his chair, clearly trying to stop his client from continuing, but Ashford waved him back down without even looking at him. I'm being honest here, he continued. I've built an empire worth billions. I've created thousands of jobs. I've developed properties that revitalized entire neighborhoods. I've donated tens of millions to charities. I know governors, senators, CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. People at that level don't answer to traffic court judges. That's just reality. I sat there looking at him. This man who genuinely, sincerely believed his net worth made him untouchable, made him exempt, made him something other than an ordinary citizen standing in front of an ordinary judge. Mr. Ashford, are you seriously telling this court that you believe you're above the law? He held my eyes without hesitating for even a second. I'm telling you that laws are suggestions for people who can't afford to ignore them. I can afford to ignore them, so I do. I let those words hang in the air for a long moment, let everyone in that courtroom absorb exactly what they had just heard a man say, out loud, under oath, on the record. If you're still with me, drop a comment right now and tell me, would you have kept your composure this long, or would you have already lost it? Because it only got worse from here, much worse. Why keep committing the same violation over and over for 2 full years? I asked him. That cold smile came back wider this time, more confident, because it's cheaper than caring, Your Honor. A $500 fine means absolutely nothing to me. It's not even a rounding error in my finances. I make more than that in interest income while we're standing here talking right now. So, yes, I park in disabled spots. And yes, I'll continue to park in disabled spots because the cost of the punishment is completely irrelevant to my life. He paused, looked around the courtroom slowly, deliberately, then back at me. And there is absolutely nothing you can do about it. Is that so, Mr. Ashford? I said very quietly. That is absolutely so. Fine me $500. I'll have my assistant pay it before I leave the parking lot. Fine me $5,000. I'll still pay it without even noticing. Fine me $50,000. It won't impact my life in any measurable way. So go ahead, Judge. Fine me whatever you want. I'll pay it, but I'm still going to park wherever I want to park. Then he actually stepped closer to my bench, closer than any defendant has ever stepped without being asked, and delivered what he clearly believed was going to be his knockout blow. Your Honor, do you know what I'm worth? I'll tell you, since it's public information anyway. According to Forbes magazine, I'm worth $8.9 billion with a B. Do you know what you make? I looked it up before I came here today. Rhode Island Superior Court judges make $189,000 a year. That's a nice salary, respectable, but I make your entire annual salary in about 4 hours. Every 4 hours, I earn what you earn in a year. He let that sink in, savoring it. Then he said the 3 words that would end him. So when I say there's nothing you can do about it, I mean it literally. I own you. The courtroom exploded, gasps, shouting. Someone in the gallery yelled, "Oh my God!" My bailiff's hand moved instinctively toward his weapon. I raised my hand, and the room went dead silent. Mr. Ashford, what did you just say to me? He smiled wider, visibly proud of himself, like he'd just delivered a winning argument. I said, I own you. I own this courtroom. I own this building. My family has been in Rhode Island for over 200 years. We've owned half of Newport since the 1800s. I've personally donated $40 million to this state over the past decade. I have the governor's personal cell phone number. I play golf with the mayor every single month. I have 3 state senators who return my calls immediately. He stepped even closer to my bench. So, yes, Your Honor, I own you. Your entire yearly income is a rounding error in my daily earnings. People like you don't tell people like me what to do. That's just reality. That's just how the world actually works. I sat with that for a full 30 seconds, just looking at him. This man who genuinely, completely believed that $8.9 billion made him untouchable. Then I spoke. Mr. Ashford, thank you. He looked confused. That was not the reaction he was expecting, not remotely. Thank you for that speech, I said. That incredibly revealing, incredibly arrogant, incredibly stupid speech, because you've just made my job very, very easy. You've just admitted on the record in front of 40 witnesses and a court reporter taking down every single word that you knowingly and deliberately violate disabled parking laws because you can afford to pay the fines. You've stated clearly out loud that you consider yourself above the law. You've attempted to intimidate a sitting judge. You've boasted about your wealth and your connections in an obvious effort to influence this court, and you've told me directly to my face that you own me. The smile disappeared completely. So let me tell you exactly what I'm going to do with all of that. He started to interrupt. I cut him off immediately. First, for this current violation, I am not fining you $500. Under Rhode Island General Law 31-27 2.2, judges are authorized to impose fines up to $50,000 for willful and repeated violations of disabled parking regulations. You have admitted in this courtroom that this is your seventh violation. You have admitted it is willful. You have admitted it is repeated. I am fining you $50,000. His mouth fell open. He looked genuinely stunned for the first time all morning. Second, I am ordering 200 hours of mandatory community service, not generic service. You will work directly with disabled individuals at the Rhode Island Independent Living Center, mobility assistance, transportation, daily tasks, whatever they need from you. 200 hours. His face was starting to redden. Third, I am suspending your driver's license for 6 months, effective immediately. If you cannot respect the rights of disabled people to accessible parking, then you do not deserve the privilege of operating a motor vehicle. Your Honor, this is outrage. I'm not finished, I said. Fourth, I am referring this entire matter to the Rhode Island Attorney General's office for review of potential criminal charges given your documented admitted pattern of deliberate systematic violation of disability accommodation law. His attorneys were all on their feet now, talking over each other. I ignored them completely. Fifth, and finally, I am issuing a standing court order. If William Ashford III is cited for parking in any disabled space anywhere in the state of Rhode Island, at any point in the next 5 years, he will be held in contempt of this court and will face immediate incarceration, a minimum of 30 days in the adult correctional institutions, no exceptions. The courtroom erupted, people shouting, his attorneys surrounding him, all talking at once. I banged the gavel hard, twice. Order. I will have order. The room slowly quieted. Mr. Ashford, I'm going to give you one opportunity, one chance. You have 24 hours starting right now to issue a genuine public apology to the disabled community of Rhode Island, not something written by your PR team. From you, acknowledging what you did wrong, showing real, genuine remorse. I looked at him hard, making sure every word landed. If you do that, if you show actual, genuine remorse, I will reduce your fine from $50,000 to $10,000 and your community service from 200 hours to 100. The license suspension stands. The Attorney General referral stands. The 5-year contempt provision stands. But I will show you the mercy you have never once shown anyone else. I paused, let it settle. If you do not apologize within 24 hours, the full sentence stands. $50,000 fine. 200 hours of community service, 6-month license suspension, criminal referral, 5 years of contempt liability. I brought the gavel down one final time. You have 24 hours starting now. Court is in recess. If you believe in real accountability, hit subscribe before you keep reading, because Ashford's night was about to get dramatically worse. As I started to leave the bench, he screamed after me. You can't do this to me. Do you know who I am? I'll destroy you. I'll have your job. I turned around slowly. Mr. Ashford, you are now in contempt of court for threatening a sitting judge. Bailiff, take Mr. Ashford into custody immediately. What? You can't arrest me. 3 bailiffs moved toward him. He backed away, hands up. Don't you touch me. I'm William Ashford. I'm worth $9 billion. The handcuffs went on anyway. A billionaire in a $10,000 suit and a $31 million watch being cuffed in the middle of my courtroom, still shouting, "This is illegal. I'll sue. I know the governor. I'll have you removed from the bench." After he was removed, something happened that I rarely see in 43 years on the bench. 40 people in that gallery stood up together and applauded. Over the next 24 hours, my phone rang 7 separate times. A state senator, two prominent businessmen, several attorneys, all of them in one way or another suggesting that William Ashford was simply too important a man to punish this harshly. I documented every single call, every name, every message, every implied threat, because this was exactly what Ashford had predicted would happen, that his connections would protect him, that the machine would move to shield him. He was about to learn how wrong he really was. Comment below if you've ever watched someone use their connections to try to escape consequences, because what happened next proves it doesn't always work. The 24-hour deadline came and went. No apology arrived. His attorneys had advised him against it, worried an apology could be used against him in future civil litigation. So the full sentence stood, every single part of it: $50,000 fine, 200 hours of community service, 6-month license suspension, attorney general referral, 5-year contempt provision. He appealed every part of it. Every single appeal was denied. The appellate judges upheld my sentence in full without exception. He paid the $50,000. He began his community service. He surrendered his license. The Attorney General's office opened a formal investigation. About 3 weeks after that confrontation, I received a letter, handwritten, not typed, not drafted by a publicist, from William Ashford III. He wrote about his time at the Independent Living Center, about meeting veterans who'd lost limbs, about people with cerebral palsy, about teenagers living with muscular dystrophy, about hearing for the very first time in his life what it actually means to have your spot taken by a stranger, to miss an appointment because of it, to be treated as invisible by people who never once had to think about you. I was wrong, he wrote, not just legally wrong, morally wrong, fundamentally wrong as a human being. He was withdrawing every appeal, accepting the full sentence without further protest, and establishing the Ashford Accessibility Foundation, a $50 million personal donation dedicated to wheelchair ramps, modified vehicles, and accessibility upgrades across the entire state. I don't know if every single word of that letter was completely genuine. Maybe there was some calculation behind it somewhere, but I want to believe it was real, because that is exactly what justice is supposed to do. Not just punish, transform. Today, 6 months later, William Ashford has completed his full community service. The foundation is real, $50 million committed, already changing lives across Rhode Island. The Attorney General's investigation continues. But something shifted both in him and in everyone who watched this unfold. People saw with their own eyes that wealth doesn't buy immunity, that I own you doesn't actually hold up, that the law applies equally to everyone, even billionaires, especially billionaires. Now, before I go, I want to say one more thing to anyone watching who has ever felt powerless standing in front of someone with more money, more authority, more connections than them. You are not powerless. The law is on your side. Justice is on your side. It might be hard. You might face intimidation, pressure, phone calls you never asked for. But if you stand firm, the system can work exactly the way it's supposed to. William Ashford believed his $8.9 billion made him special, that his connections made him untouchable, that laws were just suggestions for people like him. He was wrong. His wealth should have made him more responsible, not less, more accountable, not less. And when he violated that responsibility, justice answered exactly as it should have. My father told me once that a courtroom is the last place on earth where everyone is truly, completely equal, rich or poor, powerful or powerless. William Ashford III learned that lesson the hardest way possible. Thank you for watching. If you believe in real justice, subscribe to this channel right now. Leave a comment about a time you stood up for what was right, no matter who was standing across from you, and stick around for the next story, one that's going to restore your faith all over again. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring, and thank you for believing we can still build a world where justice is real for everyone, no matter what's in their bank account